State of Play, a summer game fest, a whole summer full of game reveals, and Marvel's Wolverine wasn't one of them. Why? Why? So let's talk about what's going on here, okay? Because we watched that State of Play, and I got my hopes up. I told people not to, but then they started showcasing a ton of games that were coming out in 2026. I fully believe that Marvel's Wolverine is coming out in 2026, so I started to get excited. I was like, oh my god, we might get something for Wolverine. It doesn't end up happening. We do get a cool reveal in Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, though. I am really looking forward to covering that game. Then Summer Game Fest comes along, and Jeff Keighley walks up on stage and says we can expect to see Marvel heroes throughout the show. And I wasn't even thinking about Wolverine showing up during Summer Game Fest, but he said that, and I was like, oh my god, it's happening. Turns out it's just an update for Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which does look really fun, and then as well the official reveal of Deadpool VR, which also looks pretty cool, but no Wolverine. And now everyone's starting to panic. Everyone's starting to worry. Is the Wolverine game canceled? And I think that a lot of people are feeling this way because we're in a landscape where a Wonder Woman game from Monolith with 30 years of games behind them gets shut down, the game gets canceled. We're in a landscape where a new studio is formed, Cliffhanger Games, to work on a Black Panther game, and now that game gets canceled, that studio gets shut down. Is Insomniac going to suffer the same fate? Is the Wolverine game going to suffer the same fate? Some people are convinced. People are like, guys, it's not happening anymore. You know, don't even think about it. Wolverine's canceled. Now, I'm here to kind of reassure you, calm everyone down, and tell everybody, let's stop hitting the panic button. There are quite a few reasons, actually, why the Wolverine game is definitely not canceled, and I also think why we haven't seen it yet. I have the reason why. Am I happy that we haven't seen or gotten an update for Marvel's Wolverine? Honestly, no, I'm kind of bummed out. I'm kind of disappointed, all right? I understand that these games take time. I understand that Insomniac wants to show people when they're ready to show people, but as I just mentioned, we are in a time right now where everyone's a little worried about some of these games that were announced and don't provide any updates for several years. It really would have been a perfect time this year to just give us a crumb, you know, just a little trailer to remind people, hey, Wolverine's on its way. And if it is the case, we don't know for sure, but if it is the case that the game was coming out next year, if it's going to be the fall of 2026, which would put it at about 5 years since its announcement to its release, which is for the most part a AAA dev cycle, then this would have been a great time. This would have been a good year to give us a little more information and just end that trailer with 2026. Don't even tell us when. It could be on December 31st, 2026, for all I care. But okay, why haven't they shown it yet? Is the game canceled? No, I think Insomniac's in a much more unique position than the studios that I had mentioned previously. With the Black Panther game, it was reported that a large reason as to why the game was canceled was because it was stuck in pre-production for 4 years. That's a long time to not get the ball rolling. With Wonder Woman, there were a lot of reports that Monolith was trying to work on an original IP. They were working on that for a few years. That ends up getting canned by WB. They say, hey, why don't you work on one of our famous IPs? And then Monolith ends up saying, all right, we'll work on a Wonder Woman game. And I'm not really sure as to what ended up happening behind the scenes as to why the game got canceled, but for one reason or another, it was just being developed for way too long. There was a lot of money being put behind it, and they had to can the project. I don't agree with the studio closures in both of these scenarios, but it sounds like that's why the games were canceled. Insomniac, on the other hand, I mean, since 2018, these guys have been on fire. They released Spider-Man 1 in 2018. 2 years later, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a discounted game, but still feels like a new game. The Spider-Man remaster, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and then not even just 2 years ago, they released Marvel Spider-Man 2. All of these games are critically well received. All of them sell plenty of copies, and it has made Insomniac one of the most popular devs out there. And like I said, they just put out a game 2 years ago, guys. Spider-Man 2 was not that long ago, and after they finished working on Marvel Spider-Man 2, they went all hands on deck with Marvel's Wolverine. So now we're sitting here and waiting to get an update about the game, and everyone's worried about it, but I'm gonna tell you, I think I know why we haven't seen anything for it. It's why it took so long to see anything for Marvel Spider-Man 2. You see, with Spider-Man 2, when they initially revealed that, they did say that it was a 2023 window. We didn't know when, we all assumed the fall. And then in 2023, we kind of sat and waited patiently. What's happening? Is it releasing in the fall? Guys, what's going on? Finally, PlayStation Showcase hits. Right at the very end, we get the gameplay reveal, and it's just a summer full of trailers and information for Marvel Spider-Man 2 leading up to its release. I think that the same thing is going to happen with Marvel's Wolverine. Whether it's coming out next year or if it's pushed out even further to 2027, I think we're not going to see or hear anything about it until we're just about 6 months from release. You spend the least amount of money on marketing and you get the most amount of marketing out of it, and a ton of people are going to want to buy the game because it's in their minds and it's fresh in their minds from the same year that it's coming out. We're all frustrated, we're all antsy, we want to see more Wolverine. I'm disappointed we didn't get to see a new trailer during the State of Play Summer Game Fest, but I know that when the time comes that we get a brand new reveal, when the time comes that we get to see gameplay officially, we're all going to be hyped. We're all going to be counting down the days until we get our hands on it. And when it comes to these games that are getting reveals so far out from when they actually release, well, as unfortunate as it is, a lot of people have to understand that isn't always for the fans. A Wolverine reveal isn't necessarily for us to be like, oh my God, they're making a Wolverine game. I mean, that's part of it, obviously. They want people to be excited, but they also want people to work on these games. Sometimes these reveal trailers, as early as they happen, are to try and recruit more people to work at their studio. It's to say, hey, we're making a Wolverine game. Isn't that cool? Do you want to work on it? Well, hey, we got some job postings up right now. The game reveals, as much as they are for the fans, are for the industry. That's a tough pill to swallow, I know, and in a perfect world, they just wouldn't do this and be able to hire people behind the scenes, but something's gonna leak out anyways, so at that point, do they just reveal the game so that it's in the public conscious and everybody knows about it, and that way they can just go through the recruiting process without having to worry about any leaks? The games industry is an enigma, all right? We're never gonna fully know what goes on behind the scenes unless you're working in the industry yourself. All I know, I'm excited for Wolverine, and I don't think that the game is dead. Oh yeah, I actually have proof of this, you know? I was tweeting at somebody who was like, dude, the game's dead. And I said, oh yeah? You wanna bet $50 on it? He said yes, and I said, all right, sounds good. Bookmark the tweet for when the game's in your hands, and then Aaron Jason Espinoza ended up replying. He is the senior community manager working at Insomniac Games. He said it's the easiest $50 that I'll ever make. If the community manager is straight up telling me, guys, the game is not canceled, it's not canceled. It's as easy as that. If the folks at Insomniac are replying to people on Twitter and Instagram constantly saying, hey, we're working on the game, we're gonna show you more when we're ready, at least they're providing that little bit of communication with the community to reassure us that the game is still being made. I just think that as unfortunate as it is we couldn't get anything this year, the reason why is because they want to do the reveal when they're closer to the release. And I'm fully convinced that the game is coming out in the fall of 2026, and that next year, by this time, we'll have probably seen gameplay and we'll probably have a release date or at least a window of fall 2026, and we can get excited. If that doesn't happen, well, then maybe that game is taking a little longer to develop. We know it's not canceled, guys. It's not. You can stop saying that. This isn't even copium, all right? We have the proof. We have the evidence. And with that being said, let me now kick it to you guys. Do you still think, despite everything that I talked about here in this video, that the Wolverine game is dead? And also, what are you most looking forward to from this game? I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. I've been Caboose. I'll see you guys later.